Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into the really fast-moving world of generative AI.
Yeah, it's evolving so quickly.
Exactly. We want to look at what tools like large language models can do, but also, really crucially, what they can't do yet.
And things like ChatGPT are probably what most people think of, but it's just one path this tech is taking.
A very visible one, though. And the source material you've given us uses a really helpful framework to break this down.
That's right, Bloom's taxonomy. It's familiar to a lot of folks, especially in education or instructional design.
So our mission today is really to unpack all that, using Bloom's, to give you a clear picture. Where does generative AI shine right now?
And where does it stumble?
Yes.
Understanding those lines is just key if you want to use these tools effectively, right?
Absolutely. Especially if your work needs more than just, spitting back information.
So Bloom's gives us those levels: remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. It maps pretty well onto cognitive skills.
A good structure to see where AI fits, and maybe where it doesn't.
Exactly. Where it helps and where, honestly, human insight is still totally essential.
All right, let's dive in then. Starting at the bottom rung, remembering.
Okay, so this is basically recalling facts, definitions, basic concepts, that sort of thing.
And the sources seem pretty clear here.
Oh, yeah. This is a big strength for current AI, especially LLMs. They can pull up surface-level info instantly.
Faster than searching sometimes.
Often, yeah.
Huh.
Definitions, terminology, quick facts, great for maybe a first draft of a glossary or just checking something fast.
Like defining a technical term or summarizing a basic concept? Sounds useful?
Hugely useful for getting started, but there's a catch.
I was waiting for the but. Even here.
Even here, the big risk the sources flag is what they call factual hallucinations.
Meaning?
The AI generates an answer that sounds totally convincing, perfectly plausible, but it's just wrong.
Ah.
Especially if the niche topics or things that are very new, where the training data might be thin or outdated.
Okay, so even for basic recall, you can't just trust it blindly.
Yeah. Nope. Human oversight is needed. It might be low effort, just a quick check, but it's absolutely essential for accuracy. You've got to verify.
Got it. Verify, verify, verify. Okay, let's move up a level. Understanding.
Right. So this is about explaining ideas, maybe summarizing, translating jargon, putting things into your own words.
How does AI stack up here, according to the sources?
Still pretty well supported, actually. LLMs are good at this. They can draft explanations, rephrase things for different audiences, summarize complex text.
Useful for creating, say, an overview, or maybe drafting some initial learning objectives.
Definitely. It's a strong starting point for that kind of task.
But it's not really understanding like a person does, right? What's the limitation?
That's the core thing the sources stress. It lacks human intention, genuine comprehension, judgment. It's mimicking understanding based on patterns in the data.
So the output might look good, but it might miss the nuance or the actual goal you had in mind.
Precisely. It doesn't know why you asked or the specific context, so you absolutely need that editorial review.
To make sure it's clear, accurate, and actually aligns with what you intend.
Exactly. Moderate oversight needed here. Think of it as a helpful but context-blind drafting assistant.
Okay. Good assistant needs direction. Makes sense. Moving up again. Applying.
Now it gets a bit more complex.
Yeah.
Applying is using information or principles in new but still kind of familiar situations.
Like taking a known theory, maybe universal design for learning, and drafting how it applies to a new course outline.
Yeah, that's a good example. And the sources say AI can offer a decent starting point here. It can mimic structures it's learned.
It can generate a draft based on applying theory X to situation Y.
Sort of, yes. It can follow the pattern, but the limitations become much more significant at this stage.
What are the big ones?
The sources really hammer this. It has zero real-world awareness, no learner empathy, no contextual judgment.
So it can apply UDL principles in theory, but it doesn't know your students.
Exactly. It doesn't know their background, their specific needs, accessibility requirements, the classroom constraints, the tech available. None of that real-world stuff.
Which is everything, really, when it comes to effective application in fields like education or design.
Absolutely. So you can use it to maybe jumpstart a prototype or get a basic structure down.
But the human designer, the human expert, has to bring all that crucial context. The learner analysis, the empathy, the practical considerations.
Indispensable. This level is, I'd say, supported with significant limitations. Needs medium, maybe even high human oversight for that contextual piece.
Okay, so useful scaffolding, But the real building requires human hands and minds.
You'll put.
Right. Next up, analyzing. Break things down, seeing connections, comparing, contrasting.
Here, the sources suggest AI is only partially supported. It's getting into territory where it struggles more.
What can it do in terms of analysis?
It can be quick at identifying patterns in data or text. It can generate like basic comparisons or contrasts, maybe a simple SWOT analysis outline.
So it can find themes or list pros and cons?
It can generate text that looks like that, yeah. But the analysis is often pretty shallow.
Surface level.
Very often, yes. Or generic. It tends to miss the subtleties, the deeper meanings, the why behind the connections. It lacks that rigorous depth you need for real instructional analysis, for example.
It's pattern matching again, not deep critical reasoning.
That's a good way to put it. It doesn't have the human interpretive layer.
So high human oversight needed here if you want more than just a superficial take.
Definitely. It might give you some starting points or highlight obvious patterns, but the real analytical work, connecting the dots meaningfully, that's on you.
Okay, that leads us towards the top. Evaluating. Making judgments, critiquing based on criteria, justifying decisions. This feels very human.
And the sources strongly agree. Generative AI is just not reliably supported here.
But it can sound like it's evaluating, can't it? Listing pros and cons, suggesting improvements.
It absolutely can simulate it. It uses language that looks evaluative. But the key thing stressed in the sources is that it's not based on actual criteria-based reasoning.
It doesn't have expertise or understand values.
Exactly. It lacks genuine domain expertise, and it can't make value-driven judgments. Its suggestions come from statistical patterns in its training data, not from understanding quality or pedagogy or ethics.
So relying on it for, say, assessing student work or critiquing the quality of a learning design, probably not a good idea.
Definitely not reliable for that kind of critical judgment. You need human expertise, human values, human criteria.
High oversight again. Essential human judgment.
Paramount. AI can't replicate that kind of nuanced, criteria-driven reasoning, not currently anyway.
Right. And finally, the peak of blooms. Creating. Generating something, new ideas, content, solutions. This is where AI often looks most impressive, maybe.
It's certainly powerful, yeah. The sources say it's supported, but again, with limitations.
What's the strengths here?
Speed and volume. LLMs can rapidly draft all sorts of content, lesson plans, scenarios, prompts, even analogies. Great for brainstorming or getting something on the page quickly.
Overcoming the blank page fear.
Exactly.
Okay.
Fantastic for initial ideation, content scaffolding.
The limitations.
The big one is often described as remix, not innovation. The output is usually derivative, based heavily on its training data.
So not truly original.
Often not. It can lack that spark of genuine novelty. And crucially, it often lacks precise audience alignment, instructional precision, or the deep tailoring needed for very specific goals or unique learner groups.
So it gives you a draft, maybe gets you, say, 70% of the way there.
That's a fair way to think about it sometimes. It's an excellent tool for brainstorming and first drafts, but
High human oversight needed to finish the job.
absolutely. Human creativity, that intuition, the contextual understanding, that's what's needed to refine the AI's output, inject real originality, and tailor it perfectly. That's where you bring the magic, so to speak.
Wow. Okay, stepping back and looking at the whole taxonomy through this lens, it really clarifies things.
It does, it doesn't.
Remembering and understanding.
Right.
Pretty well supported. Low to medium oversight, mostly for verification and alignment.
Right. High efficiency gains there.
Yep.
Good delegation targets.
Then applying and creating. Supported, but with big caveats. Medium to high oversight needed to add context, empathy, originality.
Yeah, they're accelerators, but you're firmly in the driver's seat, adding the crucial value.
And analyzing and evaluating. Only partially supported or not reliable. High oversight is non-negotiable because they need judgment, deep reasoning, context.
Which AI, in its current form, largely lacks.
Which brings us right back to that core message from the sources, doesn't it? The co-pilot idea.
Exactly. AI is a co-pilot, not the autopilot. It enhances what humans do. It doesn't replace the pilot.
So for anyone using these tools, instructional designers, writers, analysts, you can let the AI handle some of the initial legwork.
Right, the lower stakes tasks, the first drafts.
Freeing you up to focus your time and energy on the harder stuff.
Precisely. The strategic thinking, the deep analysis, the creative leaps, the ethical considerations, the human connection, that's where your value really lies.
And the sources also mention those crucial things beyond Bloom's levels that AI just doesn't have, like real empathy.
True learner empathy, yeah. Understanding diverse needs cultural differences, accessibility, neurodiversity. That human connection is vital.
Plus ethical reasoning, right?
Yeah.
Spotting bias, ensuring integrity.
And understanding specific contexts, the unique rules or constraints of your organization or project, AI doesn't know that stuff intrinsically.
So the big picture is that human roles aren't disappearing, but they are shifting.
They're evolving. More focus on higher order thinking, strategic oversight, empathy, ethics, collaboration with the AI.
Which means you need to understand the tool's limits
Right.
and know how to work with it effectively.
Critical important. Treat its outputs as starting points. Raw material that needs your expertise, your refinement, your judgment, tailored to real people and real goals.
This has been incredibly clarifying. Using blooms, like your sources did, really maps out the landscape of generative AI capabilities today. Powerful assistant in some areas.
Especially remembering and understanding.
But human expertise is absolutely irreplaceable for the more complex stuff, plus all those uniquely human elements.
Applying, analyzing, evaluating, creating. They all need significant human input. And empathy, ethics, context. Those are fundamentally human domains right now.
That co-pilot analogy really does feel spot on. It's a powerful engine, but it needs you, the human pilot, to navigate wisely.
It can generate a map based on where others have gone, but it doesn't know why this journey for these people right now is important. That's the human insight.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to consider. If AI gets really good at the remixing, the drafting, the information retrieval,
And frees up more of your time and cognitive energy.
what new kinds of originality, what deeper levels of empathy, what truly novel solutions become possible when you can focus more on the things only humans can do right now?
What can you create or solve when the initial heavy lifting is faster, allowing you to focus on the uniquely human challenges and innovations? Something to think about.
Thank you for taking this deep dive with us today into generative AI's strengths and weaknesses.
We hope this framework helps you use these tools more effectively and thoughtfully.